Okay, we're getting ready to take off here at Livingston Municipal. I'm narrating this flight that I've already taken and recorded with flight recorders so I can show you different views. I do have my head tracker on, so hopefully I'll be able to do smoothly. So here's the takeoff roll. So 36 or so inches of mercury on the throttle. Keep her straight. Always takes off with a little bit of right aileron. I'm not sure why that is. I've got to learn to correct for that. Anyway, we've got takeoff flaps, as you see. Everything looks good. We're a little bit off the side of the runway, but other than that, a pretty good takeoff. Again, I've got to start correcting for that. Okay, reduce the throttle now that we've cleared all obstacles. Reduce it to 30 inches and RPM to 2200 with this particular Pratt & Whitney Junior Wasp engine, 985 Junior Wasp engine. Okay, we're almost about 500 feet above pattern altitude, so we're going to look around. Reduce the climb flaps, and now we're going to start turning onto crosswind. So we took off on runway 12, so about 120 degree direction heading, and we're still climbing. We want to get to our pattern altitude of about 1150 feet and ideally maintain that. Let's see, we should have turned the booster pumps off, and we'll see how we do on the pattern and coming in for landing. Let's see, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I'm going to show you a little bit of what we look like oh, you won't be able to see that. I guess I have to learn to show you a little now. Okay, so here we are now turning onto base actually. So the runway is over to the left. You can well, you can't really, there you can see it. The trees are covering a little bit, but we're heading, you see the 12 down at the bottom. We're just slightly heading to the left. We need to back off to the right a little bit, but we're heading more or less on base. Okay, we've got to the end of the runway now, so we need to reduce throttle, and we'll reduce speed. We got up a little high. We should be at 1150. We're at 1400 feet, so a bit high. Let's see, we put on some carb heat and reduce the throttle, so we're descending a little bit. We need to reduce our speed so we can put down our first level of flaps. So, but everything's looking pretty good so far. Okay, so there's our first level of flaps. Now we're going to turn on to base. Should be a bit lower by this time, but we're getting there. And once we get all our flaps down, we'll descend pretty quick. So actually, I don't mind being a little bit high. This plane can descend pretty quick once you get your flaps on. I see that our transponder was on standby. We'll stick him on. Oh, we got the wrong radio in here. Let's see, how do we fix that? Well, we'll fix that later. We just come in for land. We're going to mainly look at the outside anyway. Okay, so we're getting ready to turn on a little more flaps. Getting ready to turn on final. You see the runway. You can't really see it from here, but we will see it pretty soon when we turn around. There you go. There's the runway. So we passed it just a little bit. Let's see if we can't make a good landing out of this anyway. So we've got flaps on now. We'll put us into landing mode. A little bit more throttle to bring us in. We're actually doing just fine, about a little over 400 feet above the runway, or actually more like 300 feet above the runway. So I'm going to get a little outside view of us coming in, maybe from the side. Ideally, you want to do a 3-point landing in this plane as a tail dragger. Not all tail draggers. Some of you do a wheels landing. This one you want to do a 3-point landing. So you slow it down enough. You see our speeds are about 70 knots. That's probably about right. Here we're going to flare pretty early, and let's see. So pretty good landing. You see we're already going pretty slow. I keep it more or less on the runway, not necessarily right on the center line, but more or less on the runway. And I come to a full stop landing because I'm just going to do a takeoff from here rather than a touch and go. Okay.